Have you ever stood on the edge of imagination, picturing a clash that never happened, but easily could have changed the history of warfare forever? A silent dawn? Two warriors ride into the battlefield. On one side, a knight of the high medieval age, encased in steel, trained in brutal melee combat, carrying the legacy of 1,000 crusades and feudal wars. On the other, a samurai of feudaljapan.com, as a still lake, a master of both sword and strategy, honed by generations of Bushido. Both trained to kill. Both taught to die with honor. But in a battle to the death, only one walks away. Today we ask the ultimate question: who would win? To understand this confrontation, we must first step into their worlds, not the myths, but the historical realities. The European knight wasn't just a soldier, he was a war machine. Clad in plate armor, weighing over 25 kilograms, he could ride into battle. Take a sword to the chest and keep swinging. His sword wasn't just a blade, it was a symbol of status, of Christendom, of raw authority. Many carried longswords. Some preferred the mace or the warhammer designed specifically to crush armor and bone alike. These knights were forged through years of brutal training, from page to squire to fully anointed warrior. When they entered battle, they didn't just fight, they imposed dominance. Their tactics were straightforward: charge, overwhelm, and destroy. Meanwhile, in the East, the samurai followed a path entirely different in form but equal in discipline. Where the knight relied on brute strength and superior armor, the samurai embodied precision, timing, and lethal efficiency. The katana, their most iconic weapon, wasn't just a sword, it was an extension of their soul. Razor sharp, forged with meticulous craftsmanship, and used in a fluid motion that could decapitate an enemy before they realized they were attacked. But the samurai wasn't limited to close combat. He was also a master archer, trained to fire from horseback, to stalk and ambush, to dismantle the enemy from a distance before closing in for the final blow. His armor, made from lacquered plates and silk cords, was lighter, designed for speed and mobility rather than endurance. Wasn't better or worse, just made for a different type of war. The philosophies behind these warriors shaped their every decision. The knight fought under God and king, bound by chivalry, though often twisted by politics and bloodlust. The samurai followed Bushido, the way of the warrior, a code of honor rooted in discipline, loyalty, and a poetic acceptance of death. For a knight, surrender could mean ransom. For a samurai, defeat often meant ritual suicide. Their cultures didn't just train them to win, they trained them to die with meaning. But let's imagine them in neutral ground. One-on-one. No terrain advantage, no army. Just the knight, the samurai, and the silence before the clash. Who strikes first? Who hesitates? The knight approaches with confidence, sword in hand, shield up, each step shaking the earth. The samurai breathes slowly, watching, waiting, every muscle coiled like a drawn bowstring. The knight swings a powerful arcing blow that could tear through bone if it connects, but the samurai sidesteps, using the knight's weight against him, and counters with precision. The katana aims for a joint, a weak spot, perhaps the armpit or neck, where the armor is thinner. It's not about brute strength, it's about where and how you strike. And here's where reality becomes brutal. The knight's armor could absolutely absorb glancing blows. The katana, no matter how sharp, struggles to pierce plate steel. But the samurai wouldn't aim for the plate. He would aim for the seams, the vision slit, the backs of knees. The knight, meanwhile, only needs one solid hit. If he traps the samurai, knocks him down, lands a crushing blow, it's over. The question becomes one of range, speed, and fatigue. The knight is a juggernaut, but he's slower, heavier. The samurai is agile, but has to fight perfectly or risk being caught. Let's break down their weapons side by side. The knight's long sword is heavier, built for hacking and stabbing. Its edge isn't as refined as a katana, but it was never meant to be. It could tear through chainmail and dent helmets. The knight also had a shield, a lance, or sometimes a poleaxe, versatile weapons for mounted and grounded combat. On the other side, the samurai's arsenal was more varied than pop culture suggests. He carried not just the katana, but often a wakizashi, a yumi, and sometimes even spears like the yari or naginata. His combat style was built on adaptability, switching weapons mid-battle, adjusting to his opponent's rhythm. Now let's talk armor. European plate armor was the pinnacle of defense, virtually impervious to slashes and most arrows. A knight could be set on fire, take multiple hits, and still fight on. But it came at a cost: mobility and stamina. On the other hand, the samurai's lamellar armor allowed him to move, dodge, and strike with almost no delay. It protected against arrows and light blades, but offered little resistance to blunt force trauma. In a prolonged fight, this becomes critical. The knight tires faster. The samurai bleeds quicker. The outcome depends on who breaks rhythm first. Tactically, the samurai might try to maintain distance, circling, using his bow, waiting for the knight to make a mistake. The knight, trained to press forward, would close in relentlessly. It's a deadly game of range and rhythm. One failed parry, one stumble. That's all it takes. And both warriors know it. So who would win? The truth is, it depends on terrain, on preparation, on fatigue, on surprise. In open combat with no tricks, the knight likely dominates through endurance and armor if he survives the initial assault. In tighter terrain, or with the element of speed, the samurai could end the fight before it ever truly begins. But here's the real reward of this comparison. It's not just about who wins it. It's about understanding asterisk. Why asterisk they fought the way they did. By exploring these warriors, you've just stepped into a battlefield where education meets imagination. You've learned how cultures thousands of miles apart designed completely different answers to the same question. How do we survive war and keep our honor intact? And in that answer, there is no loser, only the brutal beauty of human innovation. If you felt the weight of history in every strike, if you saw more than just steel on steel, then this is your battlefield too. So subscribe to the Vertex of Time, where legends never die. They just wait for the next duel.